Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. Thank you for joining us from whatever altitude you are. We are at mile high altitude, 5,280 feet, where we anticipate you will be in September of 2023 for Mile High 11. Yes, these go to 11. And we will see you there. RiseUpToMileHigh.com is where you can get all the details. And make sure, whether you're watching this on YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes or whatever channel you may be watching or listening, to hit subscribe so you're always dialed into Mile High Tick so you can turn up the tick in your life. Today, I am really grateful to have joining us one of my favorite people that I follow and am a fan of for many, many years now, which is the one and only Dr. Matthew Loop. He has an incredible impact on chiropractors and other health professionals and other professionals in all kinds of areas in terms of social media. Graduate of Life University, and his incredible book, Social Media Made Me Rich, is a must read, as there's so many of his tools. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Matthew Loop.
It's great to be here, Dr. Knowles. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you and grateful for all you do to help chiropractors around the world. Before we get into some social media areas and web-centered areas for people to be successful in their practice, let's have people get to know you just a little bit personally. How did you find your way into chiropractic?
Found my way into chiropractic through a health occupations teacher when I was in 11th grade. I
Wow.
had broken my fibula playing football, and it was that same year, and I had set my course for orthopedic surgery because I was learning about the muscles, ligaments, and bones, and I thought this was really amazing. And just talking with the doctor, it made sense to me, and I was like, okay, this is cool. But probably a few months later, when I was in my health occupations class, Dr. Odell came in and he was just educating everyone about this drugless, surgeryless profession that utilized the body's own inherent recuperative, healing powers. And I had never heard anything like that before, but it logically made sense to me. And so I remember when I was younger, I would see my grandparents have literally this big bag of medication, and they were taking one pill for the other symptom and cause side effects. So they were taking another pill for that side effect. And I just thought, there's got to be a better way. This doesn't seem right. And when he spoke in that class, it just really resonated to me. So that's when I decided to start looking at different schools in chiropractic. And then about a year and a half later, I actually went down and visited Life. I visited Sherman, and I just liked the vibe that I got, and it was just one of those things too where I felt right at home. So I set my course along the prerequisites along the trajectory for chiropractic. Went to community college for about a year and a half, I think it was, and then transferred to Michigan State University, and then after had transferred to Life, and it was an amazing experience.
And the rest is history. Now,
Yeah.
now I know that you help so many chiropractors, and we're going to get into details of things that have changed now and things that people want to be taking action on while they're still ahead, while they can be ahead of the curve, because I know you keep ahead of the curve on so many things in social media. You transition to helping people on social media. Is it rewarding? When I say rewarding, I mean fulfilling. That's really what I mean. Fulfilling, seeing chiropractors have impact that they may not have had if they hadn't learned things from you.
It's a blessing. It's amazing. In 2004, when I graduated, I remember, being in practice and doing a lot of stuff. My journey, I don't know if you remember MySpace way back in the day, but I was on MySpace during that time period in 2005 and six and whatnot. And so I began to get really good at using this platform to connect with people. And turns out these were real people that were like coming into my office all of a sudden. They're like, "Oh, this is crazy." And then I had other colleagues that were asking me what I was doing. So my journey into consulting was more accidental. I was still in practice, but I just figured out how to navigate this social network. And then YouTube dropped in 2006. I was there when it launched and started creating content. Facebook opened up publicly somewhere around that time because it used to be just a college network. And it got to a point where so many docs and friends were asking me, "Hey, what are you doing? Can you show me how to use MySpace and YouTube to attract people into my office?" That I had to think of, okay, I need to figure out how to get what was in here, put it into some type of course and training, which I didn't have experience doing, and it certainly wasn't as easy as it is today. You had to piece together 6 different programs. I mean, it was pretty insane, and I eventually figured it out where I had a company that was drop shipping everything. I was running to the UPS store several times a day, and at start because I didn't know that there were warehouses that could literally have your DVDs and your manuals that they would just ship them out for you. It was kind of funny back in the day, but as that secondary source of consulting income and online course income grew, it got to a point where it overtook my primary practice income. And I was like, this is really bizarre. I mean, I love taking care of patients in the office. Is amazing. It's very fulfilling. But man, if I could help thousands of doctors reach millions of patients, that's pretty cool as well. So
Right.
I kind of veered along that way, and from there, I've just been speaking on a lot of the big chiropractic stages and spoken on NASDAQ, some amazing properties, and then I've consulted probably over 8,400 docs as clients of mine, and then another 20,000 plus have went through my free trainings and such. So I've been definitely serving the profession for a very long time, and I still love it because it holds a near and dear place in my heart because I believe that our healthcare system needs to totally shift.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I know that you've helped us see more people. In fact, and I'll tell you the story. You may or may not remember this. The first time I bought your system, I remember buying it and purchasing it, and it was within hours. I was on vacation. I got a phone call from you because you called to say,
Yeah,
"Hey, thank you for purchasing this, and how can I help?" or something like that, or "I'm here from you." I was like, "Well, that's really interesting." But I was on vacation with my family, and if I hadn't learned a lot of the things I learned from you, or even thought that way, you changed my thinking. We wouldn't be doing this podcast. I wouldn't have gone down that way. I wouldn't have made
that's cool.
Mile High and so many things because of just the intro level things that shifted some things in my practice. So I'm grateful for that. And I know people that listen to podcasts on 10 Mile High and benefit from that need to know that part of that is because of how you influenced us. And so,
That's great.
so I'm grateful for that. Now, with that being said, what are the things going on in social media world today that chiropractors need to be aware of?
Yeah, it's a loaded question. Well, listen, chiropractic has always been the black sheep of healthcare, right? And it's kind of like in social media terms, it's a similar fashion these days because, as you know, there's a lot of censorship that's taking place. So, first of all, we as chiros need to understand that the game is still rigged to a certain degree with big tech colluding with government, colluding with pharma. And that's been the case for a very long time. Just now, I'm not sure if you followed the Twitter files, Elon Musk, and
Yeah.
man, God bless his soul because he purchased Twitter for $44 billion. And all the stuff that we knew was happening actually came out and be like, oh, yeah, this is what they're doing. Here are the emails. Here are the receipts. It was just the case closed proof type of thing.
Mhm.
And for a long time, I've been telling docs, listen, with social media, there's are ways that you need to navigate this so you don't get your accounts banned, flagged, or your ad accounts because this is a lifeblood of your practice. And I get it, you want to talk about certain things, but there are ways that you have to talk about those things or be very under the radar with certain things. So the gatekeepers are still there on your traditional channels like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok to a degree. Um, Instagram, not so much on Twitter anymore, which every doc should be on there and follow me if you do. But so you got to know how to keep your account in good standing. And one of the ways is to, even if you're 100% at what you do in chiropractic, restoring health, getting people out of pain, whatever it is, you can't make any claims on Facebook. You can still advertise for specific conditions or whatever that is, or help people optimize their health, straighten their posture, but you just can't make the claim that it, works 100% of the time. So you need to make and avoid words in your ads, for instance, like cure, overcome, beat, alleviate, all the typical words in that regard. You can't have pictures that depict any pain, before and after images type of thing. That's against their terms of service. If you do the video, though, if you have somebody that came in debilitating, there's one of the great videos that's a case study on YouTube and Facebook, been out for a while. Dr. Ian out of Australia, kid
Right.
comes over, hunched over. It's a beautiful story, but that thing got like 10 million views in no time, 20 million views on Facebook. I don't know what it has today, probably a lot more. But if you do your case studies in video format, they don't have as big of a problem with it. So you can actually run the ads. You can't talk about the extremely controversial subjects because you will, it doesn't matter what you say. Facebook, Instagram, they track all this stuff. And now they're even notifying you when you like content that supposedly is false, deemed by fact checkers, right? It's classic, it's very Orwellian, put it that way. But you gotta understand how to keep your account in good standing. So that's number one. And then from there, you have to see where the puck is moving. And for a lot of us, a lot of the way it's moving into short form video, your TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, because people consume small bite-sized content, and they prefer that over reading a 5,000 word blog post or a 10-minute video in many cases. The average American has a very, very short attention span. So it's about understanding that and committing to some type of content creation schedule on your end, whether you need to batch shoot the content like all on Monday between 2 hours, you crank out 7, 8 videos, who knows? Or whether that's every day when you have a moment, but you just have to be consistent. I could share with you stories, and it happens quite frequently, where because these short form platforms are so viral, everyone's copying off TikTok, that it's inevitable that one of your content pieces will go viral. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of millions of views potentially. I see it happen regularly if you're consistent. And once you get all that organic traction, that builds more followers. And you can always couple the paid advertising element on top of these things, just like what's traditionally worked in the past. But I would say definitely now pay more attention to the short video content. And as we move even forward, like we talked about just before this interview, now you have these insane artificial intelligence chatbots like ChatGPT, which has totally taken the world by storm.
Yes, yes, and I know you put out an amazing guide. I actually haven't seen it yet, but I've heard about it from a couple friends on Chat GPT. Can you share a little bit about that? Why it's important, and about your guide, how people can get access to that?
Yeah. So, regardless if we like it or not, artificial intelligence is here. And to the degree it's only going to evolve, I don't believe anyone's going to slow it down. Uh, there's definitely a cautionary tale, but in the short term, I would strongly recommend that you use it to your advantage. So, Chat GPT itself is this, think of it as a neural network online,
Okay.
like essentially. So literally you've got access to everything at your fingertips, but the way that it comes back with answers. So you type what are called prompts into this field. You can type a command, you can type a prompt, and I give some examples in the free guide. I know you're going to put a link on this page where they can download it. For instance, I could say and type in the prompt, write me a chiropractic business plan because I need to submit this to an SBA lender. And ChatGPT will literally come back with a short-term chiropractic business plan for like a
Wow.
lot of great content that you can kind of fill in if you want to, extra nuts and bolts. You could also ask it, and I give this example in the course as well, ChatGPT, write me a video script and talk about how chiropractic helps scoliosis. It'll literally write you a video script, take all the guesswork out, and you're going to be blown away by this. By the way, I could say, Chat GPT, write me a 500 word blog post on posture correction and how chiropractic can help with this. Like it's insane. Now, I will tell you that when it brings back content for you, and there's literally thousands of ways you can use this, but when it brings back content for you, you can take the additional step if you wanted to and run it through a program like Copyscape just to make
Mhm.
sure that there's no plagiarism involved in there. But it's bringing back a lot of unique content, which is just insane. And then I could even have Chat GPT after it brings it back. I could say, hey, um, please rewrite this content using sentence restructuring and synonyms, and it'll rewrite the content. It's insane. So what would normally cost you hundreds, potentially thousands of dollars every month to do and have access to, it's free. And so that's kind of what I talk about in this free guide. It's an insanely powerful way to interact, and it's only going to improve. So, like I said, you need to use it to your advantage because there will come a point in time where, just like all things, this is innovator phase right now. In that classic bell curve of tech adoption, you've got the innovators, the early adopters, the early majority, late majority, and the laggards, right?
Mhm.
And typically Kairos fall more on this side of the spectrum. So I wouldn't wait that long. I mean, you've got publications like the New York Times that are calling this the the greatest chatbot that's ever been released AI wise. And
Mhm.
Elon Musk is like, it's scary good. I mean, so you just need to see where things are going and use it in conjunction with social media to grow your practice, to create more influence, to help more people.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and I will certainly put the link in the note in the liner notes that go along with this podcast. And what you said about the early adopters is so true. And you've seen it in chiropractic; it made a difference who went after the Google reviews early and where they ended up ranking, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah,
SEO,
yeah.
all
Huh?
those things. Versus there are chiropractors, I know you know this. It's kind of sad that still don't have like a Google plus a Google my business page or whatever it's called now. I went from Google plus to Google my
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
Called something else now, but like that don't still don't have one. I say, what is that? And they don't know. The same thing's going to be the case with this. Um, uh, and other innovations. And I want to commend you for always staying in the lead to help so many people. So now you've got ChatGPT, you've got Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, advertising, Google, and you're wanting to get your hands on spines. How do you juggle all of that? How do you succeed in all of that at the same time?
You got to clearly define your role, what you want it to be in your practice, first of all. Some docs, they want to be in their practice 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and that's awesome. Do that, right? Other docs want to sometimes fly above as the CEO role. They still
Mhm.
love chiropractic, but they want to bring in associates to help so they can help more people and then really focus on the money and the marketing because that's what brings more people in, right? So it's about first figuring out where you want to be. And if you're a
Mhm.
solo practitioner, for example, right now, marketing is the lifeblood of the practice. You're going to
Mhm.
get some referrals based on your great adjustments. However, for most, that's not going to necessarily fill a practice. So you have to carve out time where you can start, even if it's 30 minutes a day, to create some content, get the marketing under your belt. My flagship social media elite program, like 8,000 plus Kairos have used that over the years, and we continuously update it because that gives you a strong foundation, gives you content and ads to swipe and all this other stuff. So you don't have to go at it alone, but you just got to make some and build some momentum, I should say, so you can go step by step. And eventually that snowball turns into an avalanche. And if you can't always put the time in, you have to be resourceful and bring in at least somebody to help you in the short term.
Mhm.
Uh, and kind of still focus on your strength, but be able to delegate a portion of the weakness. I mean, you're talking if it's you, you should be in the content because you are the doc, you're the face of your practice in many regards. So there has to be some role for you, but it's about making the marketing a priority. Whether you get up an hour early, you cut out an hour of TV, whatever that's got to be. If you're really focused and committed to helping as many patients as you can in the community, bettering the quality of your life, improving your finances. I mean, you have to have a strong marketing plan going forward.
Yeah, I noticed that doctors don't always realize that all of this is here to stay. You're not going to fight it whether you like it or not. And I love how you said that earlier, Dr. Loop, in one of the statements. It's like it or not, this is here to stay. And if you have a business, and chiropractic is only one type of business. It could be a cupcake shop. Your marketing now involves social media and the internet, and you have to lead that in your community for your individual niche. In this case, chiropractic in your area. Otherwise, you will get left behind and not have the impact or freedom or that you want to have, or the profitability. So vital, and your impact is hinges on that. To prove that, you have got to have, I have no doubt, either a case study or a story of somebody who used your book, used your system, and it turned their practice, their life around, that touched your heart in some way. Is there something like that you could share?
Yeah, I've been around a while. And so I have, thousands of stories over the years. People submit just great words all the time. One of my buddies, Dr. Sachin Patel,
Yeah.
he's made $1 million plus, and he goes on record and says, Matt's helped me make $1 million with social media. It helped me amplify my reach, and he's doing some amazing things right now in the healthcare space, just bigger. And I've watched his ascent
Mhm.
to local and then to play a much bigger game, right?
Mhm.
I have clients, one of my clients, I'm thinking off Dr. Stan Dabrowski. When he
Mhm.
started and we worked together, I coached him. He was only maybe have a couple patients a month from social media. And then that turned into like 2 to 3 per week, which then amplified from there. I have so many stories of clients that were just doing okay. One of my clients, you talked about Google reviews in the past. I had one coaching client I remember, they were getting a trickle of patients from Google, and then it stopped for like 6 months. And then he was referred through a friend of a friend that was a client. We got on the phone. The first thing I did was I Googled his practice name, saw that there was a negative Yelp review, negative Google review. And within probably 2 months, 25 reviews later that were positive, that turned into something like 2 or 3 calls a week that he was now getting, which like if you actually do the math and figure out like based on his case value, the man lost hundreds of thousands of dollars just based on not even tracking the reputation, not even being concerned with what others are saying about him online, and that affects your social media too. When you're running Facebook ads, they're going to Google your name and figure out, oh yeah, what so and so said, and if you don't have any reviews, you don't look review worthy, which is negative. And if you've got a
Right.
negative review, it's going to hinder people away. So all this stuff works together like clockwork, but it only works if you do, or if you've got a good system in place. I've worked with clients. Unfortunately, I can't make them do the work. I can't, some markets are even more competitive than others. So you might start and it goes and goes and goes, and you're like, oh man, 6 months in, it's not breaking through like I want. I'm telling you, if you keep pushing at it, you keep moving, keep creating content and circulating in the way that I teach, eventually it's going to happen. It always does. I remember one doc that I worked with, and this was probably was it New York City? It was New York City, which is extremely competitive market and very skeptical. There's a lot of reasons why that's a very tough market in general. And finally, the one thing that broke through with him was case study videos. And he was a Gonstead doc. And so what he did was he started doing case study videos where people would come in, he would show the before and then document and go through the after. And all of a sudden, bam, it just took off. And we started running ads to that content. And it just, through YouTube and Facebook, it did really well. But that was a long ramp up time. So you got to be committed to the process. Like you said, social is not going anywhere. ChatGPT is not going anywhere. It's just a matter of if you're going to put in the consistent time to use it the right way, because once that dam breaks, you're going to start to see it. I personally, I used to think the branding element was BS because we're small business owners. We need people in our offices now. But within marketing and advertising, you've got a couple different pillars. One is that direct response pillar where, yes, you would like to get somebody in now. But the other side of the equation is the branding. And if you can stick it out, if you allocate resources and dollars to the branding, like with good content over and over and over, eventually you're going to become a household name in your market, meaning you're going to be a celebrity. So when people think of chiropractic or they see you, they recognize you, oh, you're the doc that I see, doing the posture videos online, blah, blah, blah. It's a really cool thing to be known for the right reasons. So
Mhm.
while in certain markets, chiropractic has a negative brand equity, in your own market, you can elevate yours and the profession as a whole just by putting stuff out there consistently. And I'm telling you, one day it's just going to happen and you're going to be like, wow, this really, really works. And I can speak from firsthand experience of my own life and everything. But yeah, so lots of powerful case studies.
I'll tell you that that happened to me. I was sitting at a restaurant in Boulder, and so the waitress said, "Are you Dr. Knowles?" And she had seen my videos on, I don't know which ones, but just from being in our town.
Mhm.
So I was kind of surprised, and it's happened a couple times.
Mhm.
And even I was skiing. I was skiing. So you have your ski gear on,
Uh-huh.
and I was up at a ski lift. And as I'm getting on the lift, the person said to me, "Are you Dr. Knowles?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I've been to one of your community wellness dinners." And he found it from social media,
Nice.
and that happens, and that can happen to you in your office.
Mhm.
So for chiropractor, either seasoned chiropractor or new docs starting out, what are the now low hanging fruit? We're going to give people the chat GPT course
Mhm.
here. They'll have access to it. What would be the low hanging fruit of where you would point them in today?
Yeah, for most of the docs, if you're just starting out on social media, Facebook/Meta is still going to be where a lot of the population will be present at this stage because that is evolved and it's gotten more popular with the older crowd, the geriatric community, versus 10 years ago, it wasn't nearly as popular with that community. So that's where you'll plant your 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 seeds and then start to build your marketing and advertising machine around it based on your goals. What you got to have goals and very clear expectations going into it with the branding side, with the marketing side, because on Facebook alone there's so many ways that you can market and advertise. It's just about getting clear, like, okay, now we're going to create a check-in initiative so we can get help more people. They can check in at our office and we can get exposure that way. We're going to commit to running $500 per month of Facebook advertising in the ways that I teach. We're going to commit to creating 5 videos every week. You just got to get that plan. And once you get that plan, you can easily duplicate that onto other networks and platforms. But so to start off with, you will use Facebook. And then, yeah, you can use the like what I document in the ChatGPT marketing guide. You can use that to facilitate and make things much easier. So you should never, ever run out of content ideas with that.
Yeah, and that's so important for doctors to realize that they have to have all these systems working together, and they're kind of like spinning plates. Remember that old video, person holding the thing and getting the plate spinning. You got to get one spinning, and then you get another spinning, and build that around your office, around your social media plan, step by step by step. If people want to, you have so many tools and resources from ChatGPT to the to coaching to Facebook advertising to your system, which I have and still
Mhm.
reference. What are good ways for people to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, you could find me obviously on social media if you ever have any questions. Social Media Elite is my flagship training program for docs, though. That's where you would certainly want to start. Aside from the practice growth, which I've been helping a lot of docs for many, many years, I also teach docs how to create additional streams of income online. So they're not just having one, and it's very risky in today's time. And I've got a separate program called the Internet Income Club with that. We also do seminars and events, like we're hosting a seminar in the Caribbean and Mexico in April. That's where we get to connect live and I share some of my best strategies. Plus, you're in the room with high performers, which I know you can identify with this because you host a great event every year too, right? And there's you can't really take the place of that to be in proximity with
Right.
amazing people that are doing big things. And so I've placed just a tremendous more amount of weight on that, especially the last couple of years. But yeah, I mean, so seminars and events and downloading this chat GPT guide, certainly that's a good way to start, but I would love to be able to help you in any way that I can.
Well, and I appreciate your heart of helping people, because it really shows through in the material that you put out. Now, your book, um, How Social Media Made Me Rich, uh, a lot of chiropractors want to write books in different areas. Is that still something you would recommend for people to do?
Yes, because number one, it's the positioning factor of just having a book. Less than 1% of the population writes a book. So just by that alone, if you have something that you can even just give away to people, they're going to look and they're going to see your face in the back cover of like, wow, you wrote this. They look at you totally different. It's part of the whole expert industry package. It would be
Mhm.
very smart for every chiropractor to have a book. And nowadays, it's become very, very simple. Like, I mean, and if I like, I basically in my internet income club in module 6, I used to sell that module as a separate course, but how to launch a book based on what I did and how I got my book ranked 287th in the world at one point in time. But if you don't have a lot of time energy, the simplest way would literally be for you to get on Zoom every week with a ghostwriter. You just get your ideas out. And you chapter your table of contents, you get it all out, and you have a professional writer write it for you. It's in your words, and you can go back through it. That's like the simplest thing to do, to where it's not any extra effort. And then you can get an editor to do some basic editing. But I'm telling you, once it's finished, it's also a sense of accomplishment that, wow, I created this book. And then if you launch it right, you can absolutely make money with the book on the front end and the back end too. But predominantly, even if you can just get the expert positioning out of it and it can be a tool, a business card, I mean, that's going to live for many years after you are gone from this world. It's just there's so many benefits to writing that, and plus, it will get you into doors that would otherwise be closed for you. Speaking personally for myself, I wouldn't have had the gigs at NASDAQ and some of these other amazing opportunities if I didn't write that book and it didn't get into certain hands and launch it a specific way. So now it got indexed with other books that people were buying. And so there's just a tremendous amount of value, even for the average Cairo. So absolutely, I would say write a book.
So there you go. You have a number of, from this podcast, a number of vital strategies to help you impact more lives. And as Dr. Matthews said, the healthcare system, we have a very important key for humanity that not enough people know about. And you making, sharing your message, social media, writing on your web pages in video format has a huge impact. And if you're not sharing it, you're not shouting it, who's going to be, right? So last thing I'd like to ask, and this is where we may be getting into territory that's a little rocky, which is we've had an interesting state of the world in the last couple of years, to especially from a chiropractor's point of view. um, what can you say about what's happened through the pandemic and healthcare, and especially how it impacts us as chiropractors?
I think that if there was ever a time for chiropractic, now is the time, because people have such a distrust in the medical system for obvious reason. This is not what Loop says. This is not what Knowles like. This is like plain as day. You can see the writing on the wall now. Uh, the corruption is very visible from the political
Mhm.
angle of the medical, and we know all this stuff now. So there are many that are looking for different solutions. And, I would keep speaking the truth, keep being a voice of reason. And, people should absolutely conduct their own research and always question the narrative. So I'm optimistic in terms of the shift of healthcare based
Mm.
on what's happened. I think that the powers that be definitely overplayed their hand. But with that said, there is still a very encompassing machine that wants to limit humanity in all of the areas, right? We know these forces are at work consistently trying to spiritually, emotionally just drain people, demoralize them, and bring in their agenda that they want to see happen. So we're still fighting a big battle on many fronts. But in terms of healthcare, I believe it's an amazing time for the average chiropractor that stands up, has the balls to speak the truth, and lots of opportunity will come.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It's very interesting the conversations you have with people coming in your office in the last couple of years compared to before that, and their trust has shifted,
Sure.
and actually their outlook on health has changed,
Mhm.
and how they prioritize health is viscerally different
Mhm.
when you're talking to them compared to before in mass. I mean, obviously, some people are already thinking along that lines, but that's shifted. And in practice, it's very palpable, visceral, and you hear it in the conversations and in your conversion to people in care. And it's an incredible time to be able to share the chiropractic message if you're a chiropractor and you're really have an incredible gift through this. So, and sharing that's important. So, I thank you for helping people do that. Is there any last thing you'd like to share with our audience, Dr. Matthew?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we're hopefully we can connect at a seminar or an event. I love to be able to get out and meet a lot of docs. Zoom is one thing, and I think people have gotten way too comfortable with it the last 3 years. But the nothing, just hard to put a price tag on being face to face and making real connections, because that's where the relationships are really, really forged. Plus, you interact with high level achievers at, of course, our events. So if you're out and about, hopefully we can connect at one of our events, and I'm always here to serve and support you. If you have any questions, look me up on social media. But I am optimistic on how the world is moving in terms of healthcare. We stand at a very good time to be able to impact a lot of people. So just get the tools, the resources, and the technology that you can better equip yourself to evolve as the world evolves.
Yes, thank you, and I agree wholeheartedly. So thank you for taking your valuable time. I know it comes at a premium these days with all that you're doing to contribute to the world, especially chiropractors. And as I said, thank everyone for being a listener, a viewer, and make sure you hit subscribe so you're always dialed into Mile High Tech, and certainly clear your calendar. There's nowhere else that you want to be in September other than higher ground with us at Mile High 11. We look forward to seeing you there September 21st to 24th, 2023. Rise up to milehigh.com. Thank you again, Dr. Matthew. We're really grateful for all you contribute.
Thanks, Doc.